for help. There was not much around at the time. And as I got my hair system, I kind of decided that I needed to help people with that process, because it wasn't easy to start with. And it actually was so hard to the point that I actually shaved my head. I had a hair system for about 4 weeks. I ripped it off. I shaved my head. I said, I can't do this. This is not for me. I accept the fact that I'm bald. And, here we are, many years later. I'm glad I didn't give up, but there wasn't the level of resources back then there is now with things like this that Levivid is trying to help you and I with. So grab some tea, grab some wine, grab some beer if you're just relaxing right now. Here on the East Coast in the United States, 9 p.m. And today is all designed for you guys. So we have a little bit of a flow to go through, but ultimately, if you have questions, we want to hear them. They're to be answered here. View this as kind of like your own personal consultation, where you can ask any questions, whether it's about our products, whether it's about your hair system journey, whether it's something psychological, a how-to, all of that stuff is super duper welcome here. And you can just put it right down in the chat, actually. If you put it in the chat, I will respond. If you put it in the chat, we can actually have a conversation. And the way I like to kick everything off is by kind of knowing where people are coming in from. We got a few people here watching right now, and more people will roll in. Love to know where in the world are you today? Where in the world are you? I'm here in Colombia and enjoying life in Medellin, the city of eternal spring. But the good news is, guys, as we go through this, we're going to have 20% off some selected products, as you can see on the banner at the top. We have a select number of units that we're going to be talking about tonight that are all 20% off if you use the code Jake20. So all good stuff. All right. So starting now up until basically midnight, you can get an extra 20. You can get that 20% off on those products. Okay. With that being said, let's get on with it today. Choosing your first hair system, social media questions, maybe your questions that you yourself have asked on social media, and personal consultations, So let's get into it. The first thing that someone that's a beginner with their hair system needs to do to pick the right one is we need to first kind of analyze lifestyle, right? Who are you as a person? What do you do in life? Those factors are exceptionally critical to making sure that you're going to have a good experience with a hair system. If you do not factor in who you are as a person and the way that you live your life, I don't care how good a hair system is, you're not going to have a great time. It's just the way it is. So it's really, really critical to get the right type, which is why we make these types of videos, which is why we do consults on our website, and we basically give you the money back if you order, because we want you to get it right. We know that if you get the right hair system the first time, your likelihood that you'll continue wearing is extremely high. If you get the wrong one, it's very frustrating. So what's the important things that you need to factor in when you have a hair system or about your life? Well, I'm going to be putting it here in the chat. So if you guys want to actually follow along in the chat, the first thing that I think about is, where do I live? So the thing that's really important about where you live is primarily heat, humidity. Those things are the enemies of adhesives, really. So if you live in a place that gets very, very hot, well, we need to factor that into your choice. If you live in a place that's always pretty cool, a place that's always cold, you're blessed. Hair systems are going to be a little bit easier and you have more options. But if you live, near the equator, you live in Florida, you live in Texas, well, you might want to factor this stuff in because of the heat, because of the humidity, which we'll talk about in a second. The next thing that I think is really important is, how active am I? This is a question that I always encourage people to ask when they're picking a hair system. Your level of activity, how much you sweat, how much you're in the gym, really pumping up your body temperature, is going to have an effect on what system you get. Okay. The next one is, how old am I? And what I'm asking here is really about, how mature should I look? This is a really important question, right? Because obviously, if you're 60 years old, but you have the hair of a 20-year-old, chances are it's not going to be the most perfect look or fit for you. You should get something more age appropriate. So these are very important factors here. Next is obviously, what color am I? We'll talk about that, and how to pick we'll put that down. So what hair color am I? And most people don't know how to choose their hair color. Most people don't know how to match their hair color. So we'll talk about that in a minute here. How do we do that? And next, how long do I need it to last? And that's really a question of, like, how much have I budgeted for? This is important because we want to give you realistic expectations of what it's going to cost you. Because if you think it's going to cost way less than it's going to cost, well, that's going to be discouraging. However, there's options for you if you have a lower budget. If your main concerns are not budget, but appearance, well, we can push you in a different direction that's better for you, right? So these are some of the main things that I ask myself, and I'm going to actually answer them for you one by one as we go through this. Just to show you guys, right? I love when people comment and we actually take the time to respond to them, right? So Michael in the chat here says, "Hey, Jake, I am confused about the different base options." That's great. We're actually going to go through that right now. Okay. So the first thing that I asked, right, is about heat and humidity, and then about activity level. So these two things are really important for us to look at when talking about base types. Why? Well, because fundamentally there is a few different types of bases. All right. So we're gonna break it into categories. Now we're gonna start with 4 categories. The first one is poly, thin skin, ultra skin. All of these words basically mean that the base is a thin plastic. That means it's not breathable. Okay? We'll talk about some of the other benefits in a little bit. But it's not breathable. It's very thin. It's made of plastic. The second type of hair system, right, is a lace. And there's different versions of lace. We'll talk about that in a second. But lace is completely breathable. It's like a mesh, a fiber, a fabric that's mesh, right? So it's kind of like latticed like that. So the hairs are tied into the lattice like a fishing net, if that makes sense. Very breathable. And we'll talk about some of the other benefits in a second. The third type of base is a hybrid. A hybrid is a combination generally between 2 different types or even 3 different types, but generally a mix of some type of like poly and a type of lace. So think about having it, both of them, which I'll show you examples in a minute. The fourth type is monofilament systems. These are very good systems for lasting a long time. We'll talk about some of the cons. And then I'm gonna do a 5th category, which is like silk-based hair systems. Silk-based are actually, they have a silk base. The main benefit to those is that their scalp look is extremely realistic. It's probably the most realistic if you're gonna like part the hair and look at the scalp or look at this base of the system, it's gonna be the most believable and most realistic. Okay. So we've gone over 5 different categories. That's confusing, right? way, way too much. So with that being said, the thing about poly that's really, really good is that it is easy to clean. It's easy to manage. It's very, very beginner friendly generally. So this is something that I a lot of times recommend for beginners that are going to be doing it themselves, that don't have any experience, because generally speaking, it's just a lot easier for your first time. It's like buying a bicycle, but making it a tricycle, right? Putting little, kiddie wheels on the side. It's just a lot easier to keep on going forward. So that doesn't mean that poly is not good for the long run. But that being said, it is not breathable. So you're going to have a main disadvantage there. Okay. The thing about lace, actually, to give you an example of a poly unit, and we'll have LaVivid here actually pull up a hair system that is a poly hair system. What we'll do is we'll have them pull up the Upgrade Mirage, which is one of the systems that we have. It's also one of the systems that are on sale tonight, 20% off, Jake 20, don't forget it. We'll get you a little bit extra money back. So LaVivid will be putting that up here in a second. Now that unit is a very, very good unit because it's about 0.04 to 0.06 millimeters thick. It's not the thinnest, so it has a little bit of durability to it. And it also has V-looped hair inside of that. So that is the Upgrade Mirage. Looks like we've put the wrong one. Okay, there we go. I got the right one up here. So the Upgrade Mirage. So this is a really, really great system for you because it has the V-loop in the front, which we'll actually talk about that. What's the different types of ways to put hair in, but it's very realistic, but it's easy. And also this system, it's a less expensive system, so it can be good for somebody that's just getting going. Okay. Now, the next thing that I want to talk about is, and guys, thank you for the questions. I swear to you, in about a couple minutes here, like 2 to 3 minutes, I'm going to answer all of these questions. We'll do a little question and answer. Okay. So the next type that we would be looking at is actually a lace type system, right? So this is category 2. We had poly, then we have lace. So lace systems are, remember that mesh material that hair is tied into. Those mesh systems, there's 2 different types of lace. There's French lace and then there is Swiss lace. All that really means is French lace, it lasts a little bit longer because it's a little bit more durable. It's a little bit thicker. It's going to be a little less believable. A little less, but still very nice. The Swiss lace is going to be more believable, but more delicate. Both of them are going to have the same level of breathability to them. So if you're just going for that, you're going to get it with both. The main things is you're looking at durability and believability. But these systems are great for breathability. So if you live in a hot area, as we were talking about at the start, this is a great system for you because you're going to be able to sweat. It'll evaporate. They actually say most of the heat of our body leaves through our head. So it does make a significant difference. So I love these systems, and a really great example of a system is actually the one that we've put here as a pin, which is the Zeo Helios. So I really like the Zeo Helios. It's a system that I've worn a lot in the past probably year that LaVivid has had the Zeo units. It's been about a year. What that is it is a 90% density unit. It is Swiss lace. And on top of that, we have our Zeomic technology inside of that. So what the Zeo technology is an antimicrobial silver that is put on to the base of the hair system. And what that does is it basically is antibacterial, and that helps you. So if you're wearing your hair system for a long time, that you don't get well, you just have less bacteria buildup is really what it comes down to. So this is a really, really great system. I really like the Zeo Helios if you're going for that 90% density range. Okay. As I'm going to go through hybrid and then mono systems, and then I'm going to answer these questions. So hybrid systems are a mix, usually of multiple types of systems. It could be lace and poly, could be lace and silk. It doesn't matter. They just mean hybrid. It's a combination. It's a mama system and a papa hair system had a baby, right? A mama poly system and a papa lace system had a baby, and they made a little, hybrid baby. So these systems are really, really great because they have the advantages of both. Sometimes they're a little bit more expensive. We have an example that I'll actually pull up here right now, the Light Simois. So if you actually take a look at it, I'll pull it up on my computer here and show it to you guys as well. So that way you can see it in extreme detail. The Light Simois is a hybrid system because we can see that it actually has, this is the lace, and then it has poly all the way around, and then a lace frontal hairline. So the advantages there is you have some of the support, of the poly, while also having the breathability of the lace. And you can put most of your adhesive on the poly, which is easier to manage, but also getting the breathability of the lace. So these are really, really great systems for people that want the best of both worlds. Okay. The Light Simois in particular, really, really nice system because it's also a light version. Our light versions have 80% density hair. Hair at 80% density, excuse me. What that means is this is for people that want a lighter look to their system. They don't want a helmet look to their hair. For example, what I'm wearing right now, this is actually 80%, right? I actually need a haircut on the side though, which I'm going to be getting tomorrow. Okay. So the last is monofilament. Monofilament is basically a very sturdy material. It's similar to lace, but thicker, denser, much more stable. And for people that need their systems to last, say like a year, something like that, it can be a good option for them. It's designed to last. The downside is they're not as believable, especially when you come to the hairline. So we'll talk a little bit more about how do you select your hair system. Now we went through everything in respects to heat, humidity, and exercise. So if you're somebody that lives in a hot environment and you live in or you're extremely active, hot and extremely active, you're probably going to want to veer. You want to go towards the lace system or maybe a hybrid system versus a poly. It's going to be a lot more comfortable. If you're not active, if you live in the cold, well, you can choose any you want, but polys are really, really great for that environment. Okay. If you want to have something that has the best of both worlds, a hybrid, really great, right? So we're going to start with that one factor, and then we'll factor in the other ones. By the way, guys, I'm going to answer the questions right now. But if you want me to actually pick your system, you can actually answer those questions that I listed above. You can answer those questions in a comment, and then I'll tell you what system specifically based off of your comment here in the chat. Okay. All right. So let's go back into the comments here. So Michael said, I got a very sensitive scalp. What would be the best option for me? So it depends on what you mean by sensitive. But if you mean that you might have outbreaks or you have skin issues in terms of acne or maybe rashes, well, I would encourage you to go towards something that's more breathable, one. So definitely something more along the lace. The other thing that I'd recommend for you, Michael, is specifically for you, Michael, is potentially think about two things. One, not getting a tape or adhesive that's designed to last like weeks on end, but instead, potentially, you should be getting a tape or adhesive that's meant for a shorter duration. So that way you can actually take everything off. You can take care of your scalp. You can even give it some breathability. Maybe some nights you might actually even want to take off the system, sleep without the system, if you're very, very sensitive. Um, the more durable the tape or adhesive is, like the stronger it is, the harsher it's going to be, right? So a lot of people use one called Ultra Hold. I can actually show you some inside of our shop here. We actually have tapes and adhesives. I'll do this for you. Take a look here on the computer. So we actually have some different types of tapes and adhesives. So we'll start with the adhesives, right? So these are like glues. So this Ghost Bond is really, really great for somebody that has sensitive skin. Ghost Bond from Pro Hair Labs, both of these are Ghost Bond products, are really good. They're designed for to be hypoallergenic. They're very, very good. But for example, this Walker Ultra Hold, known as like one of the tapes and adhesives that lasts the longest. However, it's a little bit harsher, you know? So this No Shine tape, for example, this is a tape now, is something that is much gentler than it is this Ultra Hold. And even gentler, you can see right here, this 1522 clear, it's meant for 1 to 7 days. 1 to 7 days. So you can actually really pick the right type of tape or adhesive. And I would veer right now on choosing an adhesive and tape that lasts less time. So like you just commented, the Ultra Hold isn't too strong for you. I would try something weaker first, just to make sure that you're good with it, that your skin can handle it. For example, like that 1522 tape would be really good for you. Like a water glue, you could do that too, right? You could do the Got to Be water glue. That would be very good for you to try as well. If you know certain chemicals that you're allergic to as well, you can also check what's in the product, right? There's actually you can look for the product sheets. If you look up the title, usually on the websites for these tapes, they'll actually have all the ingredients, and they have to have like a product sheet that's actually like a release form of everything that's inside of it if you're allergic to specific things. So that's a good option for you too. Let me know if you have more questions on that. James said, tape or liquid glue? What do I use? For me, I only really use tape at this point. I think that you can get marginally better hairlines with liquid, but the ease that comes from having a tape instead of a liquid, in my opinion, it's so much easier to manage. It, in my opinion, lasts longer. And if you're someone like me, tape generally tends to last better than liquid if you sweat a lot. If you sweat a lot of the liquids will actually start to leak. Like they'll actually start to get more, they will liquefy and then they will leak down. So for people that are more active like myself, tape. I recommend tape all day, every day. Good question, James. And if you got any follow-ups, let me know. A guest 52215, somebody that just commented a while back, just wearing a system. Just wearing a system is a transitional period. When your scalp gets itchy, what should you do? Oh, you're wearing it in a transitional period. Okay, I understand. So if your scalp is getting itchy, it's probably because of a couple different reasons. It could be you just never had something on your head before, and you're just not used to that sensory input. But if you're wearing it for a long time, that could be an issue, right? Like you're just kind of like the tape or adhesive is kind of degrading. That could be possible. So change it more often. Another reason could be that your hair is growing fast under the adhesive, so it's starting to like poke up, and that could be a little bit itchy. Another possibility is that you're wearing a poly or something, and you're in heat, and while you're in heat, you're feeling like, you know, kind of the sweating going on underneath. Those are generally the reasons why people feel kind of itchy underneath a hair system. The good news is they're all completely solvable. You know, for me, I'm never itchy. I never have that problem. If you continue to wear it, you shouldn't have that problem either. Good question. And then Venu, French lace or Swiss lace? Completely depends, Venu. Completely depends on what you're looking for. Remember, right, a French lace is going to be a little bit more durable than a Swiss lace, but not as believable. Not as believable. So if you're looking for durability over believability, French lace is better. If you're looking for believability over durability, Swiss lace is better. For me personally, luckily, I can replace my systems a little less often or a little more often. So I just go with Swiss lace. I think it's the best. Cool. Guys, really, really great questions. Keep them coming. Love to just be helping you on your journey here with whatever you got going on. Okay. Remember, if you want me to pick the perfect hair system for you, answer those questions up above that I wrote out, right? The basically, you know, where do I live? How active am I? How old am I? What hair color am I? How long do I need it to last? How much have I budgeted for? To answer those questions, I can actually pick you out a unit that I think would be good for you. So the next question in the list is, how old am I? So this is important because different hair systems that we have has a different amount of hair in it, right? We actually make units with different amounts of hair for different people that want different things. So I'll go through a couple different versions of hair systems and kind of explain it to you. So, for example, let me pull up a couple here on my computer. Give me 1 second. We're going to pull up the Aries. We'll pull up the Upgrade Mirage. We'll pull up the Zeo Helios. By the way, all of these systems are 20% off. Wink, wink, nudge, nudge. So you might want to take a look at those. And then the last one I'm going to pull up is I'm going to pull up the Light Samois. Okay. So all of these systems have different amount of hair, which I'll explain to you in a second. So, for example, this is the Upgrade Aries, right? This is the Aries. Now, this has 95% density hair right there. You see that? 95%. But if we look at the Upgrade Mirage, which is a poly unit, also on sale, once again, we have 95%. But if we look at the Light Samois, we can see that it actually has 80%. Okay? 80%. And then if you actually look at, say, the Thor, which is not on sale tonight, but that's a French lace unit for those that were asking about it. The Thor, right, here on the website, you scroll down into product details, you'll find it has 105% density. See that? So with that, the question, how old am I? If you are 18, 19 years old and you are wearing a hair system, generally you are going to have a little bit more hair because you're younger, you haven't lost any hair, and it's appropriate, right? Like teenage men usually have a lot of hair, right? That's when you get the boy band hair, you know, which is crazy. But as we get older, what happens, right? Our hair starts to thin out. We get more mature hairlines, all that kind of stuff. So if you're in your 30s, like this guy right here, you probably shouldn't be wearing super heavy hair systems, like with a lot of hair, a lot of density. If you're in your 40s, which I'm not yet, you should probably be wearing less hair. if you're in your 50s into your 60s, what do you guys think we should be wearing? Should we be wearing more or should we be wearing less hair? What do you guys think? What would the right answer be? You should probably be wearing what? Less hair. Less hair. So, there's always exceptions to the rule. Maybe you were blessed with an incredibly thick head of hair, on the sides, and you can support some thicker density. But generally speaking, as you age, you're going to want less hair inside of your hair system. So the age is important. That's why we asked that question. Okay. The next question is, what hair color am I? Okay, so this is really, really important to get right. If you have the wrong hair color, it's not going to look right no matter what you do. Okay, so to get the right color, I'll show you how they work. So here at LaVivid, we have a color guide. So you can type in color guide, and then we have the color chart. Now, in short, the main colors are here. The way this works for hair color you find in a grocery store, it works for us, for any other hair system. One is going to be the darkest color. One basically means black, right? There's a couple different shades of black that we have, 1C, 1B. Generally, I recommend 1B if you're, potentially Middle Eastern, South American. One over here is really good for those that are Asian. But, okay, so the higher the number, right? This is a number 2, which means it's a shade lighter. Number 3, a shade lighter. Number 4, shade lighter. Number 4R, which we'll talk about in a second. Ash 4, we'll talk about in a second. And then we have a 5, which is a shade lighter. As the color number goes higher, the lighter it gets. This is a 17, much lighter. This is a 30, much lighter, right? Then we got a 60, basically all white, okay? Now, what does the R and the ash mean? This means it's color 4, red. So we have color 4, then the same basically color, but with more red in it. And then 4 ash means color 4 with more green in it instead of red. This is important for you to know, so that way you can look for the right hair color. Now, the way that you can find out your exact hair color is going to be that you first need to, there's 3 different things you can do. You can send us a little bit of your hair in the mail. On the website, there's the address. You can do that. The second way is you can buy a coloring from us. It's like $50. If you send it back in 30 days, we actually give you store credit. You can put it towards your hair system that you order or whatever. But if you get that coloring and it has every color that we have, and you can match your exact color to it. So you can either send in your hair, a little snippet of hair, just one little lock. You can get a coloring. Those are the primary 2 ways that we recommend doing it. Okay? You got to get the color right. If you don't, you're going to have a bad time. To quote one of our friends, one of our animated friends. So this is the next big question. Now, following that, do you guys have any questions? Do you guys have any questions about any of this stuff? Right? Or am I doing just such an amazing job? No questions. Now, so the next question, how long do I need it to last? So this is important, right? Because there are systems that are going to last you maybe probably a month and a half, 2 months. They're designed that way. The reason they're designed that way is because they're more believable. So with the believability, almost always you're going to sacrifice some durability. So are you okay with that? Right? Or do you need something that's going to last 4 months? Or maybe something that's going to last 6+ months? This is going to be an important choice for you as you're picking a hair system. Okay? For example, the Eros, for example, is a system, the upgraded Eros, which is on sale, 20% off. with the live discount until midnight Eastern time tonight. That is a system, 90% density, but the base is 0.02 millimeters thick. This thing is basically nothing. That system is less durable because the base is more fragile, but it's going to be the most believable. Does that make sense? Swiss lace, it's going to be more believable because it's a more delicate material. It's more fine, but it's less durable than, say, a French lace. A mono system, on the other hand, not very believable, like for a hairline, but durable as all crap. You know, if you need to get 6+ months, you might want to go with a mono, that to guarantee that you're going to be good. I know some people that have gone years with one mono hair system. You know? All right. So it's an important thing to consider. To answer the question, Kim Sen Channel says, what is the difference between having a hair system or a wig? Isn't it easier to have a wig? Well, depends on what word you want to use, right? You could call a hair system a toupee, right? Meaning like it's a partial wig. Usually we call a hair system a partial wig. A wig we refer to as a full cap wig, or basically your full head. So hair systems generally are covering this area, like the male pattern baldness area. Or you could use the word, toupee or hairpiece or any of that kind of stuff. So with wigs, though, we generally consider that for the entire scalp. That's generally the difference for it. Okay? So the next question is, and I think this is the last one, if I remember, how much have I budgeted for? Right? So with that, if you only got, if you have less of a budget, you're going to want your make your hair systems last longer, right? You're going to need to pick ones that last longer. If you have a little bit more budget, you can play around a little bit more with some systems that are a little bit more fragile. If that makes sense. So, because I haven't seen anybody actually give me an example of like who they are, like where they live, their lifestyle, what their budget is, all that kind of stuff. Well, guys, I'm gonna make some people up until you guys actually help me out here. Okay? So I am going to say I am somebody that does, we live in, say, Canada. They live in Canada, which is generally a little bit cooler. It's a little bit more north. They don't work out much, or they don't sweat a lot. They don't do a lot of activity. They're on the couch or in an office most of the time. They, are probably in their late 20s. They, hair color we don't need to talk about. But also they have a moderate budget, right? Moderate budget meaning they're okay with buying, let's say they're okay with buying maybe 4 systems a year. 4 systems a year. So what I would probably recommend for them is the Upgrade Mirage. That would be a great hair system for them. That, I'll show you. We need it to last 3 months each time. It's affordable, right? So $249, 20% off if you order tonight. Wink, wink, nudge, nudge. So basically, you brought it down to $200. On top of that, right, it's actually got some of the upgraded stuff, which is that it is basically ultra thin, 0.04, 0.06 full skin base. We've got knotless V-loop at the front hairline for more believability. And the lifespan, right, is 3 to 4 months under normal daily wear. Actual lifespan varies by activity. So what that means is this person, they're going to be right in the sweet spot, right? They need it to last 3 months each one for their budget. They're going to be good, right? That is a great hair system. What about What about somebody else? Let's pick another example of somebody else that we might run into. Um, I'll actually, let's just do me. So, lives closer to the equator in Colombia, although I'm in a cooler area. But let's just say I was back in Mexico in Tulum, which is where I lived, or in Bali, which I love. So tropical, hot, humid climate, very active, does CrossFit, plays paddle. Uh, just I'm constantly moving and sweat. I sweat a lot. They are 30 years old. They have a little bit more budget than the last guy. Well, what are some systems that might be good for them? Well, let's take a look here. So, two systems that I could recommend for me that I think are great systems is the first would be actually the Zeo Helios, which once again is on stock, or sorry, it's on sale today. The Zeo Helios. So the Zeo Helios, a little bit more expensive. And that was the other thing. I have a little bit more budget than the last guy. A little bit more expensive. It has 90% density for hair, 95% density, right? So it's not too heavy. It is Swiss lace, so it's extremely breathable. And it's going to last me about 3 to 4 months, right? So because of that, I'm a little bit more expensive here, but I'm going to get a lot of the things that I need, the breathability, right? So that would be a great system for me. Or maybe even getting a Light Samoas. The Light Samoas would be another great system for me, which I'll pull up on the screen right now. And why would the Light Samoas be good? Hey, what's going up, Babuj? Why would the Light Samoas be a great option for me? Well, the Light Samoas is hybrid, right? So it's breathable, right, for hot climates. It actually has 80% density, which is good because I'm 33. So that's even better for the side of believability. And it's a little bit more expensive. So, I do have the budget that I can support something maybe a little bit more money. Although it's not, super expensive, but it is a little bit more expensive. Although with 20% off tonight, it's cheaper. So those are all good things. And it's really easy to take on and off, right? Because you have the poly all the way around the box. So it's just naturally going to be a lot easier, right? So these are just ways to think about it, right? By asking yourself those combination of questions and then using the logic flow for it. If you want some help picking it for you, though, you let me know who you are, those questions above, where you live, if you're active, what age you are, if budget, what budget you have yearly, that type of thing, and I'll pick you a good hair system to go after. Okay. Now, the next thing that we'll talk a little bit about is just length. Real quick on length. This is about hairstyle. Just make it super, super quick. So, with length, generally speaking, it is more difficult to manage when you have short to medium length hair. The longer that your hair on your hair system gets, the more you're going to have to put into it in terms of maintenance. What does that mean? It means things like you're going to have to be brushing it more. It means that you are going to have to be taking the knots out. It means that you might have to be, getting a cap to sleep in, or, definitely getting a silk pillowcase, these types of things. It means it could potentially not a little bit easier if you're saying going, swimming in salt water. So you're going to have to take care of it right away. All of these things. So if you're a beginner, I do not necessarily recommend getting longer hair unless you know how to work with longer hair, unless you've lived with longer hair. Going from no hair to very long hair can be yikes. It can be very, very hard to manage. Do not underestimate it. Most people, when they first get a hair system again, they're like, what do I do with all of this? How do I take care of it? I'm waking up with bedhead, all of that kind of stuff, right? So be prepared for that. And it's a lot easier with short to medium hair. Okay. Venu asks, it would be better if we got bleach knots all over a hair system rather than the front hairline only. Well, it's a good question, right? And I know the not so sexy answer is it depends. It's not the answer that you want, but it's the truth. So, what's the advantage of a bleach knot? It's going to generally blend in with the skin a lot better. It's going to look a lot better. It's going to look more natural. All of these things. Bleaching does weaken the knot a little bit because it is a chemical, right? So, what that means is, what can you expect if you bleach the entire hair system, all of the knots? Potentially, that is going to be a little bit weaker, that it's not going to last as long. That being said, it's going to be much more believable. But does that matter enough to you where, you're probably not going to have your hair pulled aside like that much in your life, if not once a year, maybe once every 5 years. I don't know. So do you need bleach knots everywhere? Or do you just need it in the front? That's for you to decide. Are you going with a very, very, very short hair system? I'm not talking about like my length. I'm talking about almost buzz cut where maybe you're going to kind of see through most of it. Maybe it matters more, right? So Venu asks, I'm trying to decide between 80% and 90% hair density with full Swiss lace. Yeah, 100%. Well, I can't help you with that until you give me more details about you, age, that kind of stuff, how thin your hair is on the side, that kind of stuff. But generally, so this right here, guys, is 80% density that I'm wearing right now. This is 80%. So an extra 10% doesn't sound like a lot, but it is quite a bit. It is quite a bit. So if you like what you see, as far as not the way that I look, my hairstyle and stuff. If you like the amount of hair, if you like the fact that you can see through basically into my scalp back an inch, that's the look that you get with an 80% density unit. With 90%, sure, you'll get some of that, but not as much, right? Next, the more hair there is, the more you're going to have on the sides to make it look believable. If you don't have, if you have very thin hair on the sides and a lot on top, unless you have something like an undercut that's very dramatically different, it might show. So keep that in mind. Okay. Guys, hopefully that was helpful. We did actually have some social media FAQs. We had people that were asking a lot of questions to us this week. So I wanted to answer some of them. The point of this is, right, comment with Levivid, on their Instagram, on their website, ask questions, right? Because one will help you right there and then in the spot, but also you can be a part of the live streams as well. So it's fun. All right. So we had a couple of things. The first one is from Golden Man Michael. It says, how do you get the old glue off so easily and effectively? I can't do it. It's a nightmare for me every time. Yeah. Well, so it depends on what type of system, lace or poly. But in short, one of the best ways to get old glue off is to actually use cotton balls. So you buy cotton balls from the store and then you roll it across the glue. The reason for that is actually the cotton kind of attaches to the glue and it starts to roll itself up. It attaches to the glue and it starts to almost snowball, literally. So that's a very, very quick and easy way to get off old glue from both types of units. Generally, I always recommend that somebody has just a little stash of cotton balls, whether you use tape, whether you use liquid, because they can be very helpful in a pinch. Cool. So let's go to the next one. This was a question. I was looking into it. Well, sorry, I'm going to make it a little bigger so that you guys can see it. I was looking into this, but I'm worried that I wear a football helmet. It constantly take it off during the games, and I also ride motorcycles, and I constantly take it off during track sessions. Worried about that, and worried about it falling off while taking off the helmet. Also worried about the sweat underneath the hairpiece. Well, this guy's pretty worried. He's worried about a lot. No, in short, right? So what this guy's worried about is two things, like just the on and off of helmets. Basically, things putting pressure on your hair system. Will it come off is really the question. And then second, what about all the sweat? You know, just being in like a helmet. Yeah, you sweat more. So here's the thing. If you're going to be doing a lot of this sweating, I recommend that you get a lace hair system. I think it's going to be a lot better. So that's the first piece. You don't have to really worry about sweat because it's breathable and it'll actually basically come out of the hair system. But when you're wearing a lot of helmets, so one, I recommend, it's a lot of friction is really the biggest thing. Your hair system's not going to come off, by the way, but there will be a lot of friction, right? Of basically taking your hair on or taking the helmet on, putting it off, taking it on, putting it off, all that kind of stuff. So what I recommend, if you can, is first, have oil in your hair. One, oil will make it a little bit more slick. Like, I'm not talking about like lathering up some coconut oil. I'm talking about a little bit of oil. Make your hair a little bit more slicker. It'll protect it. But on top of that, if you're going to be doing, say like this kid is going to be playing a football game, helmet's coming on, it's coming off, on, off, on, off. What would be really good for him is actually to start wearing a bandana. That would just solve all of his problems. Or like the equivalent of a do-rag. But just like a bandana would be very, very useful. And it would solve basically all of their problems. All of their problems. Okay? Lastly, I'll go over this last one, and then I'll answer the questions here in the chat, and then we'll call it. So this person right here says, how long to wear it before wash? So the answer there is like, it depends. But what I recommend that you do is you use as little as possible shampoo that you can. Most people are over shampooing their hair. As men, we over shampoo our hair all the time. People with hair systems. I use shampoo maybe once a week, but really maybe once every 2 weeks, maybe even less. But I do use conditioner nearly every time that I go in the shower to put moisture in hair. So why do I not use shampoo? I don't use shampoo. You should not use shampoo because it strips the oil out of your hair. The only times you want to be using shampoo in your hair is when you got it really, really dirty, right? Like say you're out in the sand, or you're doing construction in the dirt, got a lot of stuff in your hair. You might want to use some shampoo to clear up your hair. But as a general rule of thumb, day to day, you do not want to be using shampoo. You want to be using conditioner. It'll put moisture into your hair, not take it out. On top of that, you also want to use something that's sulfate free, a conditioner that's sulfate free. That will be much gentler on your hair system. Okay? But you can wash your hair system. You can go in the shower as much as you want. You can go in there every day. You can go in there twice a day. It doesn't matter. Getting it wet doesn't affect your hair system. A lot of exposure to salt water will oxidize the color of your hair quicker, and it also will make it drier. So if you do go in salt water, you are going to want to use shampoo, and then you will want to take care of it like crazy with conditioner. Okay? So, Venu, I see your comment here. I like your density. I'm choosing front contour shape B. Thank you very much. Amazing. Remember to use the code Jake20 as you order. And that goes for everybody here tonight as we wrap up. So tonight, the whole idea was that we wanted to help you decide on the things that matter most when choosing your first hair system. where do I live? Like how hot and humid is it? How much activity do? How much am I going to sweat? How old am I in respect to the density? What color is my hair? So that way we can get a color match. What's my budget? How long do I need it to last because of my budget? These are the factors that most affect getting a system for the first time. If you use those factors, you are going to pick the right system. If you want help picking a system, you can book a consultation with me. It's $20 on the website with LaVivid. You book it, you pay it, we give you that money back to order to a system with a code. So you literally lose no money, and I can help you pick the right one if you need a little extra help. Okay? So guys, remember all of the products that you saw here in the live stream tonight, all of those hair systems are actually 20% off. You just have to use the code JAKE20, and that will give you your 20% off. So everything you're seeing down here, everything you have seen, all of those are 20% off. The Upgrade Mirage, the Single Knotted Mirage, the Zeo Mirage, the Light Samoas, the Helios, the Zeo Helios, the Aries, the Zeo Aries, all of those 20% off. Okay? Well, guys, any final questions for me here tonight before we sign off, we log off, and we get some sleep here, at least in the United States? LaVivid is working because they're, overseas, so they're going to be up for a while. But any other questions before I sign off and get some sleep? Nope. All right, guys. Well, thank you so much for tuning in tonight. Remember, picking the right hair system, especially your first one, is vital. It's vital. It's going to make your experience go a lot better. You're more likely to stay with hair systems, and you're just going to have a good time. Okay? Have a great night. Take care. God bless.